Welcome to Informed by Alan Roebke, this 17th day of November 2018. We're going to talk about the Hennepin County Sheriff's race that just kind of shocked everybody, and look into that. We're going to talk about charities because the new numbers, the charities involved in pull tabs and other forms of community gaming that just came out, and we're going to look a little bit at what's going on with the Roebke plan and some of the people I've talked to this week, as our Congressman Colin Peterson's newsletter this weekend said he believes the Farm Bill is going to be passed by the end of this year. So we'll touch on that as well. And first of all, so I don't forget, I wish you all a very happy, festive Thanksgiving. And one of the things, though, in the election that jumps out even before we get into the sheriff's race in Hennepin County is, why do we allow these mail-in ballots? And, you know, this concept of everyone should vote, well, our forefathers had it set up. The people that should vote should be informed and competent about what's going on. But when we look at these mail-in ballots and we look in what's going on in the state of Florida, we have to look backwards on what I grew up on. Election day was a very important day in the lives of the people in my community, my state, and my nation. And all of a sudden, the election process is whatever's convenient for you. We've got states starting the election process months ahead, and I think that is absolutely outrageous. We need to go back, and we're going to have clarity on, are the ballots valid, and how are we going to handle these ballots? We have to excuse me, look at a system that is extremely simple, and that system is an election day. And of course we have to have some absentee ballots, but the reality is we have a campaign, and the campaign needs to play out, whether you're Democrat or Republican. We have to see that these campaigns play out, and for what reason, so we know as much as possible about our candidates going up to the election. You know, Keith Ellison is a prime example. Many say basically had the election won before even election day, because he had all these early voting ballots, and most of those came in probably before some of the things that were questioned on him. And the Republicans, once again, didn't put a strong enough candidate out, and I think it's just outrageous in the state of Minnesota that we'll have over 50 years now where one political party has controlled the Attorney General's office. I mean, it shows us that all lawyers must be Democrat, and from a party standpoint, the Republican Party doesn't think that's important. I think the Attorney General's office has become the home office for the Bar Association, the home office for the Trial Lawyers Association. And one of the things, if you get me on the good old tower down there, I would like to spend some real time with the new Attorney General and the office, and take my camera in there and to see about these, what was it, 42 lawyers that Wardlow was going to fire or remove, and what kind of incredible bureaucracy is in that Attorney General's office, because it's got to be huge, you know, where no one changes for 50 years. It is just outrageous. Then when we look at back to the election process, when we have machine counting ballots, or a machine counting ballots. When I voted here in Douglas County, I just slipped my my ballot in and went through the machine, and the guy said, yep, you can go. And that should be the whole process. And what I'm getting at is that whether you're Republican or Democrat out there, an independent like myself, but despised by all, that we're going to allow these late coming ballots or ballots from our service people overseas. Those ballots must be in the hands of election officials at the county or precinct, no matter how they're handled. And so when the election process comes in at 7 o'clock in the morning, somebody is there that starts feeding those ballots. The officials at a precinct or county courthouse starts feeding those ballots in immediately. And so at 10 o'clock or whenever the precincts start confirming their ballots, it's probably closer to 9 o'clock here in Minnesota, because I think all polls close at 8, don't they? And so we're in a situation when the 5 networks, public TV and Fox and CBS and ABC and NBC, start giving and projecting who the winners are. There is no shenanigans going on like it's going on in Florida and Arizona and probably here in Minnesota of, well, we've still got some ballots to count in the morning. Those ballots should be just thrown in the trash. We've got to demand something, people, of our new governor-elect here, Walz, and our legislature and our Republicans that got their butt kicked, as they say, of seeing that the election process, election day, is sacred. And when that last ballot goes through the machine, we appoint or declare winners, is what I'm getting at. And people, what is going on in some of these Minnesota races or Florida, Arizona, is just outrageous. And when we don't have a press, we just have these media empires blessing anything that gets their people in. Who cares is kind of the approach we're facing. The other thing, I look with bewilderment of what appears to be a meter maid, a gay meter maid. When they talk, he was a transit cop. That's kind of my reaction. And when I go online of trying to see his bio, I just have to shake my head. And when we have the Twin City area where the Democratic Party has become such an incredible machine to service all the segments of their constituents, the Public Employees Union, the gays, the lesbians, and immigrants, and teachers, and whatever, that they have so totally and completely politicalized everything now, including law enforcement. And people should be outraged about this thing with politicizing the sheriff's office. And when I do look at David Hutchinson's nickname Hutch, which is fine, of course, a vision for everyone. I'm running for Hennepin County Sheriff because I believe our elected sheriff should have a vision of public safety that encompasses everyone. The incumbent sheriff has been in office for 12 years and still relies on outdated 90s model of policing that neglects transparency and lacks responsibilities to community needs. Transparency, responsiveness, and flexibility are some of my core values. It is time we elect a sheriff that will respond to everyone, all neighborhoods, no matter where they came from or what they look like. In respect to everyone, it goes, I will respond effectively to the needs of all people of all backgrounds. As sheriff, I will require crisis intervention and de-escalation training, protect the safety of Hennepin County immigrants and indigenous people, rethink the sheriff's office interacts with ICE, and provide mental ill individuals with treatment and services needed to stay out of jail. When we look at this immigrant situation, which is, what's my definition of here of ICE, is stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Suddenly, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat this morning. We're sitting with a law enforcement person that is basically telling us, and he's going to look the other way on immigrants and customs enforcement. And yet at the same time, when it comes to Trump, these same progressives, which let's call them what they are, liberals, believe when it comes to what the gray area that they want, which is ICE, immigrants and customs enforcement, will look the other way. And yet when it comes to the President of the United States, boy, we're a nation of laws. We're the Morning Joe, the Joe Scarborough and Mika, and the head of CBS News, Stephen Colbert, of anything goes when it is on the side that we believe in, but we're for our law enforcement and follow the most fine print, the Mueller investigation on Trump. And when we're in a society, suddenly we get rulings almost on a daily basis now where the President of the United States is trumped by some lawyer in a choir robe. And we have to look at the presidency in a position that our forefathers said, when their chaos breaks out, which we have right now, is we have to have one person that you go to and see that something gets done. Somebody that can dig into on a very short order basis and find out what's going on. And the other thing, when we're looking at the sheriff's office, well, what's going to happen here? You need me on TV towers across Minnesota, because I think this Hennepin County sheriff thing, people, we've got to realize when it comes to law enforcement, we have to have competent people that are directed by a competent leader that isn't a politician, isn't there to say, oh, I can't put that person under the bus. They helped get me my job. And at the same time, when we talk about law enforcement in the state of Minnesota, I want you to think about another thing that we in the middle want, and that is the county attorney position. People, we have to understand that we're falsely voting for county attorneys. We're voting, we should have county attorneys. All this legal stuff that the average person, you and I, cannot afford, we should have a county attorney in each county. But remember, I don't believe we should have 87 counties anymore. We should have about 30 that are looking out for the constant problems, legal problems that common people face in an era where there's no way in heck they can afford an attorney unless their leg's been ripped off by a machine that should have been outlawed in the first place, or a tragic accident or something like that. We need county attorneys. Right now, the county attorney is what? We're electing a county prosecutor to try to put as many people in the county in jail as humanly possible, and to see that our county commissioners are protected no matter how dumb of actions or inactions they do. And so when we talk about law enforcement this morning, let's focus on, let's get an election process that's clean when a precinct or a township or a city declares a winner, Republican or Democrat, man, woman, we know we have accurate readings, and it doesn't have to. Can't focus just here in the state of Minnesota is what I want to say. It's got to be all over the nation. Once again, we had an election with some questionable things happening. Well, what's going to happen in Florida? Who knows? Excuse me. We're in a position there once again of devil's in the details, and usually the devil wins in that kind of situation. The other thing, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. I'm going to be, who was that senator in Florida? And we're going to talk about charitable gaming. The new report just came out from the Minnesota Gambling Control Board. I've talked about that before here, because there's nothing more grassroots in our society than the local community taking care of itself. And this charitable gaming, pull tabs mainly is where the interest came, or the income comes for our hockey associations, our snowmobile trail groups, our Eagles, our Lions, VFW clubs. And here's the outrageous numbers that we got now for fiscal 2018. There was originally the Gambling Control Board that told me that the total gross receipts were going to be over $2 billion, but they're still slightly under that. So here's some numbers I just want you to think about. And on TV you could see these, but so get me on that good old tower down there, or Redwood Tower, or both. The gross receipts were just a little less than $2 million. Prizes awarded were 84.3%, that stand at $1,673,000, which gave net receipts $312 million. And here's the corruptness of this process of taxation of our local communities and charities. They don't tax on net profit, but they record net profit. And here's how they do it. They take net receipts after the winnings were taken off, which is all proper, of course. And so they had net receipts of $312 million and allowable expenses for our charities of $154 million, which leaves net profit of $157 million. That's a number I want you to gouge in your head, or 150 million, whatever. 157 million net profit. And then the charities themselves were allowed to keep $70 million of that net profit of 157 million. 70 million. In other words, we're talking quite a bit less than half here. And yet the state of Minnesota, folks, received almost 75 million. You heard me right. 75 million in state income tax on this lawful gambling receipts, they call it. But when they do that, they're talking here now against net profit, like it should be talked about in the first place. But that doesn't end there for our charities. Then they pay another almost $3 million for local and federal taxes, state unrelated business income tax. And see, I've stated here before, I believe all these charities include your 4-H kids and some local charities. I think there's about $30 million. It's been about 25, but I think that's creeping up like everything else. There's no tax at all, which is outrageous. Everybody in charitable gaming should be taxed as a unrelated business income. And that's at 9, should be, and we have that category in the state of Minnesota of unrelated business income tax at 9.8%. because that is the top rate. That is the rate that all corporations in Minnesota pay, 9.8%. And you rich guys out there are right men and say, I pay a heck of a lot more tax than 9.8. No, you don't. On state income tax, after you take your deductions and your accountant puts the top rate, and you don't start there as a rich individual, you end up there after paying the lower rates first on some of your income. You pay no more than 9.8%. And here, then we go down of license and regulatory fees of another over $3 million. People, we got a taxing system that, when I mentioned the word federal, that shouldn't even been there. That is so minute, and I got to get that clarified from the Gambling Control Board, because these nonprofit charities are not paying federal income tax. They're just getting screwed royally by our governor and our legislature, the king and queen of tax, Dayton and Rosen down there in the Fairmont area. These are the king and queen of taxing, and here's the report that proves it. When we have charities paying $75 million plus another almost $3 million plus another little over $3 million, so they're paying another $6 million in taxes and fees. And old Julie Rosen down there, you big time Republicans should be grabbing her by the neck and saying, what the heck is going on here? And to give you a little thought process as well, how foolish. We've got the city of Alexandria, we've got our Elks Club here in Alexandria. They were able to keep a little over $100,000 last year, but the state of Minnesota taxed them at $241,000. Yes, you heard me right. The charity itself was able to keep from last year's gaming, the biggest in the city of Alexandria. The charity was able to keep $41,000 for the mission of the community, and they remodeled their buildings, so they were allowed to use $62,000 of that, which totally adds up to about $103,000. Yet they paid $241,000 in state income tax. And then when you go to the big name charities in Minnesota, I'll give you a couple of them which would be easy to show on. Merrick in Vendota Heights, they're the charities people kept $352,000. The state of Minnesota people got $1,500,000 or $1,600,000. It's so close to that. And your beloved legislators down there that you worship like gods, some of you Republicans, this is the taxation that they allow. And then when we go to the Irving Community Center in Duluth, they were able to keep $340,000, but they paid just shy of $800,000 in state income tax. People, that's Senator Bach's area, and so I can prove to you I'm a middle-of-the-road conservative. And when we look at East Gull Lake, which is what? The Senate Majority Leader for your Republicans, that charity that takes care of special needs kids, summer camp and that type of thing, they were able to keep $520,000, but they paid $806,000 in state income tax. And then when we look at our friends in that Mankato area, you know, all people must know somebody over there. Let's look at Community Charities of Minnesota, at Mankato. These people were able to keep $216,000. They paid $704,000 of state income tax last year. And those people, I talked to them, people, they don't even have a website. When they told me here a month or so when I talked about them, we don't need, we have such a stellar record, we don't need a website. And so I said, how do I get to see what you guys are really up to? Well, I can't remember the dog and pony reaction they gave me to that. And then when we look, and I think on this sheet I did it, you know, you people down, the no people in Waseca, let's see, I think I did add that one on. Hold on here 1 second here. I guess I did that for somebody else, but didn't show Waseca. Where there was what, $6,000 in somebody stole. That charity, once again, they paid more than 50% income tax. And so when we look at this whole thing, we need a true independent TV station all over the state of Minnesota, like Alan Roebke's Informed TV, and we're going to get some justice in election. We're going to hold these politicians accountable, both Republican and Democrats. When I go off the air here in Nome after this month and focus strictly on TV, you guys got to help me and get after your cooperative boards down there that handle CTV. The other thing, I was contacted by a couple of farm radio media groups, and we'll just have to see if they finally write something. The bad part about this, they're seeming to want to wait till after the farm bill is passed, and then they'll go, well, in 4 years, you know, Alan, you may, or 5 years, you should maybe bring your approach. The Roebke plan simply works. All you have to do is get after your congressman and senator people and just attach the Roebke plan and watch it work. It's a no-cost program that gives all our farmers cash flow and relieves a lot of the subsidy needs that you taxpayers are paying to the richest people in rural America, our farmers. And with that, I want to thank you for listening to Informed by Alan Roebke, and I wish you and your family a very blessed Thanksgiving. Thanks for listening.